Uh, Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which I've been making because I'm a writer who uses Macs and iPhones and iPads, and so are you. Now, I knew we had a lot to talk about, but I didn't appreciate just how many of us there are in the world, because as well as you and me, there are currently, December 2020, about 673 other subscribers to 58 Keys. And what makes me even happier than you tapping that subscribe button is that thousands of people have watched our videos. Here's what we watched in 2020. Also, because it's exactly as good as it looks here, we're not going to hang about. It's the top 10 58 Keys episodes of 2020 at a rush. Right, some bits of business first. This is a top 10 countdown, yeah, going up to one, but I'm not going to stop each one to show you how many views each video got, and that's because it's changing. It's going up all the time, in fact, which is brilliant, in fact. The views for all 10 of these went up today, and numbers 10 and 11 nearly swapped. So let me tell you that, for reference, the top one has been seen 3,537 times, something like that. And let me tell you more usefully that all of these 10 will be in the playlist, in a special playlist in the show notes. Now, number 10. Making Time to Write with OmniFocus. It's a 58 Keys episode from September. Now, I obviously spend a lot of time writing on my Mac, and I might not tell an editor this, but you're a writer. You know. It is when you are deep into one writing job, and especially when you've written a difficult bit, that you get a great idea for something else that you've got to write. Here's what you can do. I'm in a script here in Final Draft, or I'm in a Pages document, but anywhere on your Mac doing anything, doesn't matter. Press a couple of keys, whatever I'm doing, I can just start writing in a brief note or a long note about what it is that's on my mind. Write the idea or the thought, hit return, forget about it, and trust that it is in OmniFocus for later. What particularly interests me with this one is that OmniFocus is not for writing. It's a to-do app, a task manager. But the point of that episode was how when we make writing the thing that we'll do later, when everything else is done, we'll never write. So balancing all the things we've got to do, getting everything done, is important for writers. 58 Keys is for writers, and that means often it has to be about the business of writing too. 9. New iMac for writers, August 2020. I want to tell you something and then explain it, fine. But if I explain it too much or for too long, really, I'm possibly going to convince you that I'm wrong. I'm probably going to convince myself that I'm wrong, which is okay, which is fine. We can cope. We're writers. We know about holding contradictory thoughts in our heads. We know about debate. We know about changing our minds. We know in this case about disagreeing. But disagreeing with me, myself, means me going out to spend about £2,000 on a computer. I'm a writer. I want to be sure before I spend that kind of money. Oh, now, I know why this one's on the list, because it's so confusing. Back in August, this new iMac came out, but we also knew then that Apple was changing from Intel processors to its own Apple Silicon on the inside. We knew at some point, possibly quite soon, this iMac would be replaced by a new iMac. All right, okay, you always know there's gonna be a better one down the line somewhere. But back in August 2020, we knew certain things for certain. We definitely knew Apple Silicon was coming. We knew there would be Apple Silicon Macs by the end of 2020, and there were. But we didn't know whether this iMac would become one of them. And we also didn't really know what Apple Silicon would actually bring us. So at the time, I said, this new iMac, it's the best Mac you probably shouldn't buy. 4 months on, we still don't know when the Apple Silicon iMac will come out, but we do now know what Apple Silicon itself brings. The new Macs with these new inners that we've had so far are immensely, startlingly faster than ever before. It's not like it's night and day difference, but at least it's morning and evening difference. 8. Writers' Essential Tools, Drafts 5 from May 2020. Outside world. It'll never catch on. Okay, you do this, I do this. You're away from screens for some reason. You're away from keyboards as well, although I do actually have one in my pocket. We'll talk about that another time. But you get an idea. Maybe it's just a line of dialogue. Maybe it's a complete story. Maybe it's just that little thought, you do something. You could resort to pen and paper, if you remember those, or you could do this. It was a dark and stormy night, full stop. Honestly, again, full stop. I should really move somewhere else, full stop. We were deep in the coronavirus lockdown in May 2020, so one thing that appeals to me about this edition is that we got to go to the Lake District. Actually, because this is one of the pilot episodes of 58 Keys, shot in 2019, and I held it back to May 2020 because I kept fiddling with it. Drafts 5 is the app I use to write everything, really, that isn't a script or a book. So, I suppose articles mostly. Love Drafts 5. 7. Writer's Essential Tools, OmniFocus from August. Let's skip a clip this time, because you just saw OmniFocus a minute ago. It was my to-do app a few months ago. It still is now. It's going to be. What I've learned from compiling this top 10, though, is just how popular these occasional Writer's Essential Tools or Writer's Essential Apps editions are. So, as well as more of those, I'll do you another playlist that has all of them together. 6. Writer's Essential Tools. Reader 5 from October 2020. Reader 5 is a news reading app. It's how I stay on top of, well, both the news, but also any topic that I'm writing about. But this edition also had my favourite beginning. As well, please just let me show you, okay? I didn't really know what to take, because it was just, it started like any ordinary day. I'm a writer, so up at the crack of dawn to work. I got you, babe. And then it was a hard day, actually. I mean, just constant work. Then I like to cook, so early evening I was just getting dinner ready, and that's when I saw it. Yeah, I know it's daft, but it made me happy. You can't believe, by the way, how long it took to set up that overhead shot of me dunking a biscuit. And the book I was reading in that little moment then is Mysterioso, a novel by Alan Plater. He was a friend, and the very last time I saw him before his death in 2010, his death in 2010, we talked about that novel from the 80s. Cherish Mysterioso. 5. Writer's Essential Apps, default folder X from March 2020. Hudson Yards is the name of my hard drive. Let's look for users, and there's me. Let's go to downloads. Can't show you that. Okay, scripts, that'll do. Oh, none of them. All right. To place, really? Okay, not doing very well. All right, here's some documents. I go into another one, and there. And notice, by the way, it's giving me a preview. I can actually read the document here, just about. Another essential writer's apps. I'm taking a time. The default folder X, and it is X, by the way, not 10. I keep checking because I keep forgetting. What it does is it changes all of your Mac's open and save dialog box, which doesn't sound like that much, but it makes a huge difference. It means moving around your Mac incredibly fast and easy. Get the trial version. A friend tried this because of our recommendation, and her Mac was just sufficiently old enough. The default folder X, while it ran very slowly. So get the trial, try it out. It'll work brilliantly. Goodbye. Number 4. Keyboards for Writers from June 2020. We're in Keswick at the Pencil Museum, and we're at the Pencil Museum to talk about keyboards. Well, we would, wouldn't we? 58 keys, there's got to be a reason for that number 58. It's about keyboards, isn't it? We're here to talk about these things that I admit I am a bit obsessive about, and I'm not saying you should be as well, but this was actually another one that was partly filmed as a pilot in the Lake District, so it was very early on. I felt very silly talking to camera, and especially because I was talking about keyboards, and I knew I was the only person who was this keen on them. Thank you for being as nutty about keyboards as me. 3. Writing Apps Roundup while we're at home from March 2020. Here's a way that might help you get yourself writing and get your mind off things. Cheat. Distract. Distract yourself, and distract yourself with the technology you've already got. You've got this Mac, this iPhone, or this iPad. I will never say that they are anything less than amazing tools for writers to use, but they are also fun for us to play with. So let's play. March 2020 was also the start of lockdown here in the UK, and I was being positive. figured that at least we now had time to play about with new writing tools. So this was a grab bag of recommended writing apps and utilities, some of which we're going to come back to with full editions. 2. Scrivener for iPad from July 2020. Remember, this is one document. I opened my book to carry on writing and it has my draft. Here it could have that previous version or any of the notes. It can have as much research as like, but it's still one document. If I take my iPad away to somewhere without an internet connection, it's still got all of that with me. If I go to my Mac actually later, or to my iPhone even, and I open the book in Scrivener, I have all of that with me. Do you see what I mean about a writing studio? It's as much about helping you manage a long writing project as it is about you actually writing. This was specifically about the writing app Scrivener, but particularly on the iPad, and Scrivener is also on the Mac and on the iPhone. Back in July though, I had just started writing a novel and I was doing an hour a day on it exclusively on my iPad. The idea was that that would separate the novel from my other writing, commissioned writing. It would make me write in a different place, on a different machine, in a different head, really. Now in December 2020, the novel's on 100,000 words and the ending isn't there. Rubbish ending. Plus, I've just thought of a radical, tiny improvement that will mean a lot of those words being thrown away. Actually, I have no problem with that. I have a little problem with the fact that you and I only talked about Scrivener on the iPad. We will cover it on the Mac too. Which takes us to the #1 edition of 58 Keys for 2020. Hang on, #1 of the top 10 of 58 Keys of 2020. 1. Essential Writers Apps, Omni Outliner from February 2020. Okay, you've seen the floor here, haven't you? This is the most popular episode of 58 Keys, but it's just about one of the oldest too. 58 Keys is a series started at the very end of January 2020, so an episode in early February is about as old as it gets, really. So it's been available for about the longest it's been possible to watch it the most. Of course, it's the most watched. Even so, though, it was immediately popular and it keeps getting so many views that this episode is actually, it's also one that's been most encouraging for me. I felt like we had something we could talk about, something to say. Plus, it's about Omni Outliner, the outlining app that I relish, even though I don't like outlining. Which is usually what happens with me in Omni Outliner. I have something to do, something to achieve. What's the best way? With events, for example, I might well be told the start time and the end time and that there's a lunch in the middle. How do I fill that time in the most useful way to the attendees? Things like that. I just told you, I'm willing to throw away all 100,000 words of that novel if necessary. I am not a plan in advance kind of outlining writer, but I am one who has to juggle ideas and events and plans. Actually, I tell you what, no one has seen this before. Let me show you something really, really quick. That's my novel in Omni Outliner. Not planned, but explored. I would write in there every day during the main writing of the novel. Thoughts about what I had to do next, trying to figure out really complicated details, exploring other routes that maybe I use, maybe I'd throw away. And I checked this morning. The novel is 100,000 words, and that Omni Outliner document about the novel is 79,000 words. I honestly thought one reason you and I talked a lot was to put off doing any actual writing. I hope you have failed in that as much as I have. Thank you for watching this and for watching 58 Keys. I love that you're here. I'm quite shocked at the 79,000. It's quite encouraging though, isn't it? You keep writing and it adds up to more than you think. Maybe I'll actually get that ending there. Tell you what, I'll go think about the ending. I'll put the kettle on for us and we'll both have some tea, all right? Take care of yourself and I'll see you soon.